Welcome to the Adapt and Create podcast. I want to pose this question to you, listeners here. Have you ever wondered if we're measuring success all wrong? Well, today we are talking to Dominik Stanecki, who thinks we should be counting time instead of money. He calls it being a timionaire. And with AI changing, my perspective, with AI changing how we work, his idea are more relevant than ever, I think. So welcome, Dominic.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to have this chat with you.
Yeah, man. So we talked once before, really hit it off well. Would love to hear a little bit about your background and really let's get into what got you thinking about time as a real measure of wealth.
Well, in reality, it's the most valuable resource that exists. It is the only non-renewable life resource. Money, time, and energy being the three main ones, two of them being renewable and one being non. Yet I was taking a look at it and being like, everyone's so obsessed about money. Like, obviously, right? We are greedy. Money is what really built society. And especially if you live in North American society, right? Everything revolves around the bucks. But money comes and goes. You can become a millionaire, go bankrupt, and make another million or billion. You can be super tired and then just take a nap and you're at 100%. But time is just the only resource that once it's gone, it's gone. Sure, you can buy time. I buy time now, but that I understand the concept. But a certain way, it's down ticking, it's downtrending, and it's gonna wreck you, right? So I wanted to focus and study and really master the tool of time just because it's the underlying foundational aspect of everything else you want. If you don't have time and energy, then you can't do anything. And even if you got all the money in the world, but you don't get the time and energy, then what's the point of even having it? So it all came back. It's like all roads led to time. And that's what fascinated me with it. And I decided that I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to be the guy who takes time to another level, created a mindset, an ideology, and a lifestyle built around it. I perfected it over the years, and here we are today.
Got it. And was there any type of specific situation or moment in your career where you really started thinking about it in a more focused way? Because obviously everybody talks about it more or less, right? Freedom and time and all these type of concepts, but really making a point out of it. I wonder if there was some sort of situation that got you inspired.
I think there was multiple situations, and then you know how it is in life. Life is just a combination of collecting things and things coming together and at the right time, whether you call it destiny or whether you call it luck or whatever, just things come together and sometimes you just get an epiphany moment. And I think my whole life is kind of led up to that point. A few things that I guess I remember being some kind of a catalyst for this were I remember one year I had about three deaths in the family, right? Three close people that died. Some were expected, others were completely not, like completely out of left field. And every time I had that, you just realize like, wow, like, oh my God, this person was literally here yesterday. I was just talking to this person, and now they're not, and they will never be. And it's like, wow, that could be me too. Like, because this person, like, I'm looking at my life, living this crazy adrenaline filled like life, doing stuff. And then this person's like cautious and careful, and boom, they're gone. Well, then statistically, like, damn, like, that could happen to me. And you just come to realize that this life, this one shot. I mean, you can believe in reincarnation and afterlife. That's a completely different, abstract kind of a concept that we can get into. But being pragmatic about it, it's like you're here now. I love this place. It's like, I don't know if like heaven and hell are here and probably somewhere else, but I just want to milk this thing for all it's worth, right? Because I don't know what's going to happen after. So, combination of death. Some things that I personally went through in my life too, where I want to start life again and fresh, have a fresh start at things. That's part of the reason why, moved around the world so many times and kind of now found my way back to Europe where I'm living now. And then also, I guess, reaching a certain level of, I guess, getting slapped around by life a little bit. And then also finally reaching some kind of a level of what you can call success and being able to then focus on really what matters. So all those things kind of came together. And just one day, I guess I was just like joking around because I like to play around with words and just we are talking about like, being rich and being millionaire and having lots of money and stuff like that. But it's like, that's all cool. But it's like, but I'm more like a timionaire. And I said it once. It's just like, and I heard myself say it and Camille, what's amazing about it is I heard myself say, and I'm like, "Ooh, that sounds great," but I'm like, it's probably already taken. So you
Mm,
go to Google and you put it in, and you know how like basically, unless you really misspell something, everything's always like you can find pretty much anything nowadays on there. But it's
right,
like
right.
zero search result, and I'm like, no. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, DuckDuckGo. I'm like, Bing. I'm like, right, and then there's nothing. I'm like, I'm searching, and there's no one has ever combined those two words, and I'm just like, I like this, and I'm like. I'm gonna roll with this. I'm like, I'm like a timionaire, and I love this fact. And I started to play around with this concept, and it's like it just opened up this whole new world of ideas just started flooding to me and just writing down notes and just allowing the muse to kind of all right like you just opened up something and this is now yours. It doesn't, no one else has done this. I call my lawyer and I'm like, hey, I want to trademark a word. He's like, oh, another graphic, right? I'm like, no, like a word actually. And she's like, well, tell me about it. And so I told her all about it. She's like, let's do it. So trademarked Timeionaire in Europe and in the US, and then the Polish version, Timionaire, in Poland here to kind of act like a sandbox. So I've got the
Mm.
Polish version. And initially what I tried to do is I tried to just play around with it here. If it was gonna fail, I wanted it to fail here. Then once I've kind of understood and perfected it, I want to take it international.
Got it. Interesting. Um, and I can relate to that. I had a couple of those epiphanies too, where it's just like goes and you want to go with it for sure. So I'm glad
Yeah.
it worked out on your end. Definitely, it's harder and harder to get good domains. But just before we started, we were talking about even my last name. I was
Yeah.
looking at if it's still available, and luckily it was. Um, tell
That
me,
that sucks when someone else takes your name or like something like that. You're like,
right.
no,
I
man,
think there's
come
one other Camille Bank in the world, and we're like competing of different social media platforms to get it. But I'm lucky in that regard, at least to have
yeah,
this combination. I'm sure you don't have a problem with that either.
no.
That's our blessing from Poland.
That's
Um,
true.
let me ask you this. So online, I see a lot of glorification of entrepreneurship, obviously the
Yeah.
hustle
Yeah.
and making money and all that. Also, not only that, but also to attain that lifestyle that many people see on social media, it takes a lot of money if you actually want to own the yacht rather than just posing in front of it like a lot of influencers do. How do you think would have been beneficial, or how would you, if you could, um, display the concept of timionaire as something valuable to attain on social media? You know what I mean? Like, how would you drive some sort of like a want
Mhm.
for people to realign maybe their priorities to really actually get that as an end result rather than just get the money in the bank? Because you can't do,
Yeah.
sure. I mean, that's my next question actually. But let's just go on this one. How would you try to promote that?
Yeah. So look, on the outside, when you're looking at the shiny Lambos and the diamonds and this and that, they look great, but it's the tip of the iceberg, and we all know what's really down below. That life is not all that glamorous, and there's a lot of things behind it. And most of those people, first of all, are fake, and then the other half are usually not happy. And so I think most people realize that they realize it's a front and it's a facade, and deep down
But do you think
inside,
that's actually true? Do you think actually most people know that? I think most
well,
people
look, well,
don't know
here's
that.
another thing. You know
Yeah.
how in life two things can be fact like at the same time. So
Mm.
it is. And then it's also ego because it depends. Look, your ego wants, first of all, me, I want. But what do you actually need? So you, baseline you needs things, your ego wants stuff. And the want, if you're not aware of your ego, it's like an addiction and it controls you. And the smarter you are, it uses that strategy in your mindset against you. That's how psychological diseases work. That's how addiction works. And actually, part of Timeionaire is, we'll get into this later, it's IDHT syndrome, which is this I don't have time syndrome. That's a whole other story. Coming back to what we're talking about, if you're not aware of your ego, then your ego will control you and your ego will sacrifice you. It doesn't care. It will throw you over a cliff. It doesn't care about that. So it just wants to consume everything at any cost. So if you allow your ego to be in control, then of course it's I want everything, right? And I must have, and that's great. And even if I have to fake it and spend all my money on that stuff. However, fundamental baseline you, right, needs time, needs energy. You need to rest. You need to sleep. You need to love. You need to spend, if you're not a psychopath and a sociopath, you need to spend time with people. You need certain things that require time and energy. Your ego wants things, and it's an epic battle between the both, and both are correct, right? And it's just which one are you going to allow to be the driver? And are you even aware that that you're in a vehicle, right?
Mm. Right, right. And I mean, I know you spend a lot of time coaching people, right?
Yes.
And do you see some sort of patterns on how people think about success
Oh, yeah.
so far? Like,
Oh, yeah.
what's the pattern there when we
Well,
talk?
look,
Because now we talk about perception, right? On
yeah,
especially on social media. But what's the like your personal experience talking to
sure.
people?
So it depends how you look at it. Perception, I love how you said that word because you're absolutely right. We're all looking at the world through a various perception. And I mean, I use the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs type indicator. So if you're aware of the system and you can get outside of your own perception into perspective or into another person's perception, then you can learn to understand what their needs are. Then you have to diagnose certain things. Like first of all, and then also age has a factor in it too, because when you're in your 20s, you're young and invincible and nothing can hurt you. And you're willing to literally like your ego is in control, especially if you're in more of a narcissistic, egocentric type, or you're very ambitious, or you're allowing society to really dictate what you should be doing or how you should be behaving. So there's that area. When you're young, you're willing to sacrifice literally like your life. I'm gonna I will take 2 years and I'm gonna make $1 million. And if I don't, I don't care. My health, my friends, my family, I'm literally willing to sacrifice it. You know it, I know it. We've all been there when we were young, right? Okay, if it turns out, man, you did it. You are the 1%er. But guess what? There's another 99% that's not the case. They're gonna try a few times over. And then for me, the people that I love to work with are the ones that have already tried that a few times. It hasn't turned out. Reality slapped them around. They're tired. They're burnt out. They've actually taken mega steps back because they've gone all in multiple times on things that they thought were going to make them millionaires, but actually put them either in debt or in trouble, whatever the case may be. They got to make 50 grand to be broke, right?
Mm.
And it's so look, what I do is completely not templated because there's so many factors that come into play. But I use personality type because we're all different and I understand those differences. Then I have to make an understanding of, are you one of the big five personalities? Are you a Machiavellian, a psychopath, a sociopath, a narcissist? Because many people in business, and especially when I'm working with executives and CEOs, you meet those type of people because they naturally climb the corporate ladder. They're ruthless and they're willing to do whatever it takes. It's a different conversation, right? And then also there's two different types of people. There's the planners and the organized types who are making checklists and they're planning everything and they can't be late and deadlines and time controls me because I'm always time is my master, my overlord. And then there's a
Mm.
type, the other type of people who are just naturally spontaneous, easygoing, chaotic types that are the non-planners. They have a tough time in society, but they're freer from time. They still use it because if they don't, they get in trouble, they get a late fee or a fine, or they lose a client. So they learn to kind of adapt because they have to, but it's not natural for them. And then there's the whole diagnosis of IDHT syndrome. So let me briefly touch on that because I think this is very
Yes,
important.
please.
When I was coming up with this concept of Timeionaire and building the entire philosophy behind it, by freak accident, I discovered a social disease and I named it IDHT syndrome, which stands for I don't have time syndrome. Now, at first, I'm like, Dominic, I'm like, dude, that's a great growth hack. Like, wow, man, like, good job. Like, years of sales has paid
I
off.
hope you trademark that one.
We're actually, I'm working on getting it classified in the DSM as an actual social disorder. So it's even, we're working on some really cool stuff with that. So, what is IDHD syndrome? And actually, first, how do I get past the fact of it being there's something better than just a growth hack? So, I had a client who's a psychotherapist, and this is a person who's, very well known in their profession. They make good money, but of course, they didn't have a lot of time and stuff like this. I started to talk to him about this new concept I had, and I'm like, yo, I came up with something really cool. I think it's going to be great, the marketing wise. And he goes, oh, it's great marketing wise. He goes, but I think you're actually onto something. He goes, but what you have to do, Dominic, is you got to see if it's prevalent in society, in different cultures, at different parts of the world, among different personality types. And if that answer is a yes, then you've actually got a pandemic on your hand, potentially, right? Something that people don't even know exists yet. And you're going to be the first, just like, you found the star, you name it, you found this, you name it, right? And
Hmm.
then if you can test enough people, then we can start to get it classified, accepted, right, and then get it into the DSM because it looks like it's prevalent. And now, after about a year and a half and over 150 people tested, it is prevalent in society around the world. And it's
Right.
fascinating because it just proves that it's real. It's not just a growth hack. And this is something that I know I'm here to fix or to be part of the solution.
Right. And DSM, for those of you who don't know, it's like mental something, what is it,
Yeah,
diagnostic?
yes, the diagnostic. Yeah, exactly. It's a manual for basically it's like psychological and social disorders. It's version 5 we're on right now.
Got it. Very interesting. So, okay, so let's say you have that you discovered that. Walk me through, if you can, some sort of like a leader maybe, and how after you get beyond the personality type and their situation, do you have some sort of a system, or how do you walk them through rethinking their relationship with time, so to say?
Sure. Okay. Well,
Briefly,
first,
obviously, you don't have to spill your beans here, but
no,
like,
yeah, no,
let
definitely
us know
not.
how does that work? What's
Yeah.
the cure?
Sure. Well, look, for everybody's going to be a little bit different because once again,
Right.
we all have different needs. I need to understand you, right? That's why I build some really strong relationships with my clients. I don't have a massive amount of clients, and I'm not looking to scale this huge because I
Mm.
love working with people one on one. I like doing some group stuff. I love speaking on stage. I am writing a book about it, but I don't want to mass scale because also I'm a timionaire. And I also believe that whoever needs this will come into my life. I don't just want to mass produce this. This is not about making money for me. This is about making a difference and leaving a legacy behind. But it's all kind of individual. So, what I'll say about that is it depends on various things. Look, what's your lifestyle like? Okay. Because if you got a family, if you're single, that's a completely different ballgame, right?
Oh yeah,
What are your resources?
I know that from personal experience.
Exactly, right? And you see, I mean, there's so many, and then there's so many layers and so many factors. And because
Of
I
course.
literally have, last time I checked, roughly, I've got about over 15,000 hours working with
Mm.
people, mentoring, coaching, strategy, doing this. This is what I do. And when you have that many hours working with people and you're an analyst and you understand psychology and personality types, it just becomes so natural for you, right? And you do it intuitively. But lifestyle is big. Resources are huge. What kind of resources do you have, right? Because here's another thing. Are you living life in defense mode or are you living life in offense mode? There's
Explain that.
completely
What does that mean?
Mhm. Defense mode means you're in trouble. Your
Mm.
tank is running on low. You have limited options. You are having challenges. Those
Maybe also
challenges,
from a point of scarcity when you is that too
it
or
could be scarcity based on your
mindset?
your
Yeah.
mindset.
Right.
Maybe it could be a mindset issue too. It could be
Mm.
where you live, the cards you were dealt, perhaps. I work with people around the world, right? And not everybody, I mean, growing up in North America, we think, the world should be like us. And, just if you don't travel a lot, you don't really get it, right? We're in this little bit of a bubble. Luckily, I've traveled around over 40 countries now, actually. So I've learned different cultures, which has really helped me with this as well. And sorry, get me back on track here.
So we were talking about defensive and offensive life.
Thank you so much. So, defense mode is when your life is you're having challenges that are blocking you from doing the things that you want to be doing, whether they're financial, whether they're health, whether they're political based or where you are. There's a lot of different factors. Also, if your business isn't going well and you are being cautious. Defense mode. It's like in sports when the other team's got the ball and then they're on your side of the court, you're playing defense, right? So if the ball is not in, well, if someone's on the attack, if you're not in control of the ball per se, then you're what I call in defense mode and you're making decisions. You're making different types of decisions, right? Your risk threshold is different. You are being overly cautious, sometimes having analysis paralysis where you're having challenges
Mm.
making decisions, or you're right and you're not going with that gut instinct, especially if you are an intuitive type that typically gets good ideas from the universe, but because you're in defense mode, you're like, maybe I shouldn't, or no, I can't, or I just can't afford that right now. And that's what I call defense mode. And many people are in that. And it's a completely different way of functioning when you're in offense mode. When what is offense mode? You're all right. You've got finances. You can slow down. You're not month to month. You've actually got out of the troubles. Your business is going well. You are developing. You have self-awareness. You have overcome. You understand yourself. You understand what's going on with your ego. You know your faults. You're willing to admit them. You are looking around. You're open to help, mentoring, all these things. You're hunting. You're outbound. You are out there. You're on offense, and it's a completely different ball game and mentality and strategy. So I need to know that too, and you need to know that as well. So a lot
Mm.
of what I do is diagnosing. A lot of what I do is reality checks. A lot of what I do is mapping, and then it's also what do you want out of life? Because what you want could be different than what I want. And me, I can't tell you what to do. You're gonna have to decide what you want. If you don't know,
Right.
I can help you with some choices. So you see, that's kind of how I start.
Got it. Yeah, it makes totally sense. Actually reminds me a little bit of Patrick Ba Patrick Bet-David's book, Your Next Five Moves. I don't know if you learned it, read it. The
I
first
love
chapter.
Patrick. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
Patrick, but I have not read his book.
Do I have it here? I think it's in the library,
Patrick
but
is also an ENTJ too.
oh, okay.
Yes.
Um, First chapter talks about getting to know yourself in order to know what you want. So I think that aligns kind of
Oh
with
yeah.
that as well. It's
Well,
huge. Thank you
Friedrich
so much.
Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche has this quote, and I love, and it's become who you are,
Mm,
right? Because I
yeah,
think a lot of people are trying to become someone else. Once
right.
again, we go back to what we were talking about, the media mindset and the what appears to be success, right? That facade of success, the millionaire mindset that I'm chasing millionaire, which what we talked about last time is pathological because most will never achieve it, and most will are willing to sacrifice a lot for it, and they will sacrifice too much eventually. So. Mm, yeah.
On that note, become who you are. Are you more on the side of finding yourself or creating yourself?
It's both. It's a combination. First, you got to find who you are naturally because you should be you. And you got to find a way to make you sellable and do something that you can enjoy and be yourself. I mean, look, if you want to be an actor, right? But you want to do something that's really going to give you fulfillment and allow you to, what Confucius said, do what you love and you'll never spend a day working. So if you
Mm,
can really find your talents and what you're great at or where your passions lie, then that's important. But also you need to know your vices. You need to know your downfalls. I always tell people a to-do list is important, but for me, a not to-do list is even more important. I have
yeah,
a not to-do list.
that's a
My
good one.
not to-do list is so important because if I do things on that list, it always screws everything up, right?
Right. Yeah. So in that regard, what do you see leaders that you talk to, where do you see them making mistakes with their time?
Hmm. Many
Is
areas,
there like
right?
a repetitive pattern that you've seen, something that's common that people maybe
Sure.
don't think about, but they should
Hmm.
be,
Yeah.
like a reoccurring theme?
So I think one main one is um not appreciating it, taking it for granted, and that's the main because look, time it's like if my clock is ticking right now, then I'm here, it's working. It's like my car's working, and so until it's broken, I'm not going to take it to the mechanic or do anything about it, right? And that's usually how humans are, is why, if it's fine, it's fine, and when it's not, then I'll deal with it. However, IDHT syndrome is like an addiction, so it creeps up on you. And I really love the quote. It's the chains of habit are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be broken.
Yeah, I know that
So,
one. That's a good
right.
one.
So what happens is this is we neglect it, we don't appreciate it, we take it for granted, and then also what we do is we repeat a phrase that is so detrimental to everything. And that phrase is I don't have time. And what's happened with those keywords, I don't have time. It's four words. And those four words are psychosomatic. So if you repeat anything enough, it becomes reality in your life, right?
Mm,
Whether you believe in the law of attraction, be an abstract type, or whether you're a pragmatic type and you don't, well, you can see for yourself that if you repeat anything enough, it's going to somehow become a reality, or you will just hardwire and program yourself to believe it to be true. So by us using I don't have time as an excuse, which is an awesome excuse because it's like a get out of jail free card. Coming if you tell me to do something, I just say, sorry, man, I don't have time, and you're done. I'm like, you're blocked. What are you gonna say? Well,
mm.
make it, right? And like, no, I don't have time. Like, screw you. So what's happened is people have learned because it's easy and it's like a nicer F off in a way. So what people have learned to do is use it all the time, but because they're repeating it so much, they're creating it in reality, or they're actually attracting a life filled with things that are taking your time. But in the end, there's no such thing as they don't have time because we all have 24 hours in the day, right?
Mhm.
If you live on this planet, we all have 24 hours, no matter how rich you are, no matter where you live, no matter how old you are, because every day you get a mulligan, you get another 24.
Yeah, that's true. And you often hear that and compare how you spend your time versus somebody like here. This is the biggest. I actually want to talk about a case study. Maybe you have one where somebody really transformed their approach to time. But I just want to bring up the most juxtaposed person that I know right now that's in the public eye, which is Elon Musk. Maybe you can
Mm-hmm.
explain to me if he's a timionaire already. Because normally I would say, well, he delegates a lot of things. I don't know how many companies he has right now. That doesn't mean that he is rich with time. But then I see the story of him being like the number one Diablo player in the world, which is an online role play game, which takes so much time to do. I wonder if he actually hires people to level his characters up and he just does the final thing. But would you consider him a timionaire on that case, or do you have any other type of maybe celebrities or people that you know, or maybe from your personal experience with people that were a good example on how to become a timionaire?
Elon Musk is very interesting. I'm glad you brought him up because
Mm,
it depends on who you ask. Because here's the thing. One person might look at him and say, "Oh my God, like the guy doesn't sleep. He's a machine, and I feel so bad for him." But he's happy, man. He loves
mm,
what he's doing. All of his companies are not only passions for him, but they are things that he got from the universe as a mission. He's serving, he's sacrificing, but he's having a good time doing it. Look at the guy. He's dancing, he's laughing, he's grilling and roasting people, he's tweeting, he's playing vids, he's doing whatever the hell he wants, man. He is like he's the modern day Bruce Wayne, right? He literally
mm.
is. And but what he's doing all with a passion. He's the Confucius quote. He's the epitome of the
Right, right.
Confucius quote. Do what you love and you never spend a day working. And he's a machine, but also he's an NT. He's an intuitive, he's an NT temperament type. Once again, if we go back to MBTI, there are four temperaments. Each temperament is designed to do something else, right? There's four seasons, there are four temperaments. Each season is designed to play a role within the entire system of what of our equinoxes and of our rotations and the solstices and the harvests and everything. It's all part of it. So the four temperaments are also harmonious in what the role they play in society. As an NT, an intuitive thinker, our job on this planet is to bring ideas out of the ether and to bring them into reality, to start them off, and then to get our supporting actors, the SJs, the guardians, to take over, to delegate, and to bring it to fruition. We supervise it, we analyze it, we make changes, we get these wild and crazy ideas. Because if there was not the Nikola Teslas and the Elon Musks of the world, we would not have the things that never existed. Because us NTs see things that don't exist, and then we give it to the pragmatics to complete it. We all play a role. Elon Musk is an INTJ. He is a genius. He is like Nikola Tesla was an INTJ. Mark Zuckerberg is an INTJ. If you understand MBTI typology, you can see who these people are and understand why they're behaving this way, what to expect from them, what role they're going to play in society. Now, yes, you have good types and bad types. You also have INTJs, the mastermind evil types that are behind the scenes that have way more money than Elon and nobody knows who they are. And they're, pulling the strings. So,
Mm.
it's like if you understand these certain things, you can see them all interconnected. For me, Elon Musk is a timionaire, but a very special one. He's a very high functioning timionaire on a mission, and he's loving life. So and he has time for whatever makes him happy. And timionaire I've got two mottos. Timionaire, a person who's got time for everything, and timionaire, build a life that you don't need a break from.
Mm, that makes sense. And where would you put that balance? What's the right balance you would say for somebody that's not Elon Musk between, making sure that you have an income, even if it's maybe not what you love doing, but it's a good income, and then at the same time focusing on time. What's like is there like an approach, some golden rule or some formula that you can
Yeah.
measure this
Actually,
by or that makes sense?
great question. I'm working on a formula. It exists. First of all, it's all healthy until it has an impact on your health, relationships, and sanity. Okay.
Mm,
And that's where also IDHT syndrome comes in because there's four stages similar to cancer, and you progress through the stages. So as you progress, you are starting to see, well, not you, because just like an addiction, you're the last one to find out, right? Like if you're an
right.
alcoholic, guess who knows before you? Everybody. And guess who doesn't know yet? You don't, right? And you're
But you also
protecting it.
have to be the one to recognize it, right? To do something
Yeah,
about it, probably. Yeah.
exactly, right? And then everybody's going to point it out to you, but your mechanisms are not going to allow you to see it, and they're going to rationalize and minimize and colorize, and that's what addiction is. It's a bunch of mechanisms that your brain uses against you. And once again, the more intelligent you are, the harder it is to drop that addiction and to get out of it because your IQ is used against you, really, right?
Mm.
And the strategy that your brain uses. So as long as it's not detrimental to your health, to your relationships, or to your sanity. But that's given that you're not a psychopath or a sociopath. Because psychopaths and
Right.
sociopaths don't give a shit about that. Oops, said a bad word. We might have to cut that out. So if you're not a psycho or a sociopath, then you are gonna want to take care of those important things in your life. Once those start to go, it's not healthy anymore, and you've lost the homeostasis, the balance, that equilibrium.
I see.
Now, here's what I've noticed over the years working with people and creating timing errors. When you start to focus on time and energy, the finances roll into place afterwards. Why? Because when you can maximize and use time and energy efficiently and effectively, then you're hyper focusing on the most important things. If you can strategize, if you can plan, which is what I help people do, then we take that time and energy, which is vital for everything. We have a plan that's catered to you and everything we described earlier: personality, lifestyle, resources, all that stuff.
Right.
And that is when what you choose to do for money, that's when we really take that to another level. My clients, first they become timionaires and then they become millionaires.
Mm. I see.
It's not the
Got
other way around. Because look,
it.
why does everybody want to become rich? So they can sit on the beach and do nothing, right? Well, guess what? They're willing to sacrifice everything to do nothing. But right now you're already doing nothing. So basically you want to give up everything to have what you already have, but you're not using what you already have properly, and you're going to give it all away to maybe one day have it, but most likely not, because you're going to be doing it all wrong. Do
Yeah,
you
yeah.
see that? You see how that
Oh,
works?
100%. I mean, in my personal life too, it was funny because I grew up in Germany, and then I actually had an exchange semester in Hawaii, which was my first contact with the US. I always knew I wanted to move to the US, but Hawaii was the first place to be out of all places. And me living as a student there in Waikiki, being kind of like a beach bum, learning how to surf, one evening just completely changed my thinking. And actually, without knowing it, I kind of went on this path of Timeionaire essentially. What happened was I was surfing, sun was setting, like orange sky, crazy colors. You got the Hilton in Waikiki on a Friday. They always have those fireworks. Then you see the hula dancers and the flames and all that type of stuff on the beach. I'm like, my mind just exploded at that moment because essentially, when you grow up in Germany, you kind of like you go to university, you're gonna get a cushy job maybe in a company, and then when you're 65 you retire and then you go to Mallorca or you go camping somewhere, and that's it. But then I was like, hold on a second, I'm here broke, I can barely afford rent, and I'm already living the life of my dreams. There's got to be better ways to do things. So I can totally relate to that for sure, man. Doesn't mean that I stopped trying to pursue financial wealth as well, but it definitely was a mind shift for sure. So if somebody's listening right now and maybe feeling overwhelmed and might think that they would love to move towards that shift, is there some first step that they can take to kind of get into the direction of a timionaire?
Sure. So what I would highly recommend is going to my website, timionaire.com, Timionaire. timionaire.com.
I'll
Time.
link that below. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we got time and then millionaire, like because I know it's a new since it's a new word, even like
Yeah.
AI doesn't like when I'm using Fathom for note taking and stuff like that, it's like usually time in air. It doesn't
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's why I
Oh,
want to get
trust
it
me, I
added to the
know. Every time I
diction.
try to spell my name, I get it.
That's why I want to get it added into the dictionary so then it becomes kind of, part of pop culture and spreads. But if you go to timionaire.com, I've got my IDHT syndrome test on there. It's 16 questions. If you take that test, the first step is it's like with anything, it's you need to diagnose. You want to find out on what stage of IDHT syndrome you are at. And then once you're diagnosed, you know what stage you're at. That's when we can really begin the journey. Then you can contact me, and I've got really a couple of options. I've got two options. I've got Timeionaire Business Strategies, which is for the business owners and the entrepreneurs, the ones who are running businesses, and they are more in control of a business. They're perhaps hiring people and things like this. So this is more of a strategy based on building your business and your life and your business together, combined in a very healthy, balanced way. And then I've got Timeionaire Life Strategies for the average person in society who's working the 9 to 5, who's not an employer, but more of an employee, but they've lost control of their lives. They're burnt out. They're tired. They want freedom. They want to live. They just basically want to become timionaires. So those are the two areas really where you got to make a decision. Diagnose yourself, make a choice, contact me, and let time do the rest.
Yeah, I actually took the test and it said your results place you at stage two. What is stage
Mm-hmm.
two? It says mostly free. You're doing well. You have a solid grasp on your time with only a few tasks tying you down. You enjoy freedom, but imagine how life could be if you could cut out those remaining limitations. So yeah, definitely, it was interesting. I'll link it below for sure. And so let's say we have this shift in society, and
Mm-hmm.
especially now, with AI. I was going to talk a little bit more about it, but I was kind of fascinated with your topic. But with the shift in AI and all that, it does seem like we could have a lot more free time on our hands, even though if you become more productive, maybe you just take on more work. Um, what would a world look like full of timionaires to you? Like, what will we be doing? Like, what would society look like? Do you have like a vision?
Sure.
Like a crazy extreme. What would that look like for you?
Well, we have to be careful because us humans, we are creatures of contrast. What do I
Mm.
mean by that? We have a tough time finding balance. We usually go from one extreme to the other. It takes us a couple decades to do this transition, but it's really usually what happens. So even though timionaire is the new definition of success, it's what everybody's striving for. Let's not get it mixed up with being broke and lazy, all right? Because that's not what this is all about. This is having control of your life. This is having the resources that you can actually use that time and energy to do things that you want, that you love, that are good, that basically are usually the things that now people are saying that they don't have time to do. But at the same time, you're staying busy. Because if we don't stay busy, we do stupid stuff. We get in trouble, right? So the whole thing is, once again, is balance. Balance, balance, balance. If you can find balance in your life, then that is really what success is all about. So if we build a world filled with AI and robots. And yes, that is the next evolution. And really, Camille, I do want to touch on this. So I hope we can spend some more
Mm.
time because I want to
Oh
pick
yeah,
your
I would love to. Yeah.
yeah, I want to pick your brain a little bit about this as well. So let's kind of maybe transition. One other thing I did want to maybe touch on briefly is we are talking about cultures. I lived in Japan for a while, Japanese culture, because you live in Germany. Germans and Japanese people are very hardworking. They're very proper. They're like like a Swiss watch. So that's actually, I'm studying those cultures too, because they're a little bit of outliers in this, but they help me and I think the rest of society realize what's important, because when you look at them, you go, that's not fun, right? Or that's not cool. I don't want to live like that, because that's a contrast,
Mm.
right? So what do I see in a world filled with AI? First of all, a complete paradigm shift on everything. Like we're talking about Earth 5.0 or whatever version we're going to be on now, whoever depends who's counting. Um, if people are using the timing philosophy mindset properly, they will survive and build a life that has a balance of finances, which are keeping you not just afloat, but allowing you to live a good life. However, those that take Timeionaire and see it as a do kind of a nothing and get lazy kind of a thing, they're going to once again go too far. So right? There are going to be some people who stray off that path and take it too far. And that's something that we're going to have to worry about. I think there is going to probably be some kind of a social kind of system that people might go on due to the fact that so many jobs will be taken. It's really hard to say, but one thing's for certain: we are for the first time seeing evolution take place and create something that is better than us in many
Mm.
ways. And this is where we go back to ego, where most of humans are going to have a tough time accepting that we're not like the best thing around, right? And
Right.
that's going to be a big challenge. And I think that psychologically, the biggest challenges are going to happen psychologically with people. We're going to see a lot of like mental diseases, breakdowns, all these different things take place
I
because of
think
that.
that's also because a lot of people identify themselves with their work, right? Like, this is my title, this is my position,
Yes.
and they make this the center of their identity. And maybe there needs to be some sort of a shift there too.
Well, I think people just need to read what's written behind you, adapt and create. But the thing is not everybody is a chameleon. Not everybody is a cockroach. I mean, chameleon will adapt and a cockroach will survive. Some people are just won't. And look, as as
I'm
as as
happy that
gruesome.
chameleon used to be my playa name, not cockroach. But you're right, cockroaches are pretty good at that too.
They are, right? And but look, you're right. A lot of people, yes. If you can't adapt, you will die. You will be filtered out. It's we're going to go through a filtration phase.
Hmm.
But also maybe we can see, look, there's two things. I like to look at very macro and abstract concepts, and I see two
Right.
things. We have AI that's going to be taking a bunch of jobs and positions. And then we have also what the Earth is doing at the moment. And let me tell you kind of my theory on what's really happening here is, okay,
Yeah.
Camille, let's say that you got kids, right? You
Hmm.
got let's say your daughter is sick, right? She's got some kind of a virus or a bacteria or something like that. What's going to happen? What does the body do when it's infected, when it has a parasite or a virus?
You get a fever.
Exactly. So your temperature goes up. Why? To fight it, to kill it off,
Hmm.
right? If we believe, now, once again, if you're a super pragmatic type and you don't believe that the earth is a living, breathing organism, then go grab a coffee right now, because for a couple of minutes, we're going to get into kind of, more metaphysical things for the abstract listeners here.
Hmm.
I believe that our earth is a living, breathing organism, right? It's amazing what it does. It's so interconnected. It breathes, it lives, it does everything. And we can look at us as a parasite or a virus that's on it, because we are destroying it in a way. So just like any body with a bacteria or virus, it's creating a fever. Our earth is just creating a fever. It's getting hotter, it's getting warmer, because it knows that when it does that, it will kill off not all, but the majority of this thing that's all over it and being a nuisance. That's how I see
Yeah,
it.
no, I can totally see that. That's definitely an interesting analogy for sure. And yeah, we'll see where most of us will end up. I actually have an interesting theory on that. I want to know your opinion on that. So on AI, I actually was wondering, I think at some point there's going to be something like, I mean, I don't really believe in this universal basic income, but there's going to be something there for people that just want to that don't want to adopt. But I think that most people, I would love to hear your take on that, will get some sort of a promotion where in they let's say they're executing tasks right now in their job. If they're willing to have a growth mindset and learn how to use AI, then they'll become a director, making decisions on what tasks and why to execute certain tasks and maybe how to interpret the results. Would, do you think that this might be a way to maybe unlock more time for people? Or have you seen, what I've also seen in AI, even in my own life? Instead of having one client, now I have 10 clients and I spend the same amount of time on the computer than before. It's more fun, but it's not like you know what I mean? Like you're filling the gaps somehow. Where do you see the technology going there?
Do you remember Black Mirror season one, episode two?
Not that, I mean, I'm sure I remember it. I've seen all of them. If you tell me
It's
which
the
one it is,
one.
then it's not the one with the jogger, is it? I don't
It
remember.
is. It is. No, it's the cyclist one. No, no, the jogger one was season three, episode one. I remember that
Oh,
one. That
there's
was
like
called Deep Dive.
likes or something, right? I
The
don't
one I'm talking about was the one with the building where everyone every day wakes up and they have to work and collect certain points. They have to cycle, they have to create some kind of energy, and they live in a building where they have certain tasks every day that they have to accomplish in order to get credits, which will then allow them to live life.
Right, right, right. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember it now. You're basically living in a box and you just,
Well, you're living in a gamified world,
right, right.
basically,
I see it. I'm
where
looking at mine now.
you are tasked to complete certain things. Now, look, those that will adapt will survive. Those that will not will be not only in defense mode, but they will be in survival mode. Now, we talked about offense and defense. There's
Mm.
another level. It's called survival mode, and it's a little bit of an anarchy system because there you do what you got to do to survive, right? Sometimes in ways of desperation, sometimes in ways that you thought you would never have to behave. So when a lot of people in society will become redundant and they will not be adapting or conforming or creating a new version of themselves, they will be given a choice: under the bridge or some kind of a gamified world where you are literally becoming some kind of cog in the system. Clog in the system. What is it? Cog
Yeah.
in the system.
Cog, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Right? Because look, I mean, think about it logically. What else are you going to do? And then people are going to want to capitalize on that because of
Mm.
desperation and survival mode. People do crazy stuff when they're desperate, right? People do things they thought they would normally never have to do. But if you're given that, and if it's packaged in a nice, sexy way with psychology and and techniques of marketing and sales, and the vision is sold, and you're brought through an elevator pitch, and you just if you're going through all the psychological things that any system would have in order to catch your attention or to persuade you, then many people are going to go that route. And I don't know totally what kind of versions there's going to be of that, but I think it's going to be something along those lines. What do you think?
It reminds me a little bit of a conversation I had with my daughter, and it's more about what are we gonna do, especially the people that maybe don't adapt. And like I said, they would be on some sort of a support system. And my daughter and I were recently talking about cats and how my daughter is 6 years old, so she's like, "Are cats our slaves?" She was asking. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, um, we we buy them and then, we keep them. And I'm like, okay, well, think about it this way. And it's kind of like an interesting paradox because I don't think it applies directly to humans, but just imagine we built this thing that's smarter than us, right? And then it does all the work, and not all 8 billion or how many billion people will have things to do. So maybe if we're pets of the AI, essentially that'll give us certain amount of freedom and time. But then I asked my daughter, so you think it's a slave? But actually, we're the slave to the cat if you think about it, because
Oh yeah.
we're giving it the food, we're
Yes.
giving it shelter, and as
Yes.
soon as it feels bad, we bring it to the doctor. So, what do you think? Is that something that might happen with people as well, and they'll have more time? That's one thing. But the other thing, and you mentioned it at the early beginning of this conversation, people have like this need almost to, I wouldn't call it create problem, but juxtaposition or something. They need to have something to do. I don't think people could just, or a majority of people could just um, live a life where they have plenty of time for themselves, right? It has to be tied to purpose in some way, right? Otherwise, you
No,
would go nuts,
not
no?
necessarily, because right, remember one thing is not everyone is designed to be ambitious and lead and create and do. Some people are just here playing, just like in a movie, you got your main actors, you got your supporting actors, you got all these things. And there's a lot of people that, if given the choice, they would choose nothing. Um,
Hmm.
in Poland here, we have a few years ago, there was a new system that they gave to like a social system with the old government, and it was called 500 plus. So if for every single child that and they implemented like from 1 year because it was a political move. The one
Hmm.
of the political parties they wanted to win the elections, so they created a system called 500 plus, where if you voted for them and they won, if for every child you had every single month, you would get 500 zlota. It's like getting 500 bucks every month for every child. So if you had four
Right.
kids, you're getting 2 grand. And there was other things. If you when you gave birth to a child, you got 1,000. And then if you had 4 kids, then that mother could actually go on early retirement. So what they
Hmm.
wanted to do, because our population, it's smart because we want people to have kids. Poland's birth rate is declining, so in theory it was great, but it was a problem. It was a program that costs us billions and billions. Imagine every single month paying every single person who has a child 500 bucks or 500 zloty, right? That adds up.
Hmm.
There's a lot of kids here.
Right.
Um, so what
Do
happened?
they still have that program, by the way? Maybe I should
It's
Google.
now 800 plus.
Oh, okay. Well, my wife just left. I should have told her. I
It
love
is.
Poland. I mean, no, we're seriously considering moving at some point, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, look,
Interesting.
pluses and
Okay, so
minuses.
so so what was the result from that so far? What have you seen?
Uh, Massive laziness. People
Mm.
starting to calculate and going, if the minimum wage is 3,500 a month, why would I go to work and spend 8 hours doing something that I hate to to make that similar to that amount, especially when you're taking a look at the demographics, especially of people in lower incomes, they have
Mm.
more kids. So if you are lower income and you have kids, that fee for having children is close to what you are making. And if you go 10 out, because those people are not just working 8 hours, they're working 10, 12 hours,
Right,
right?
right.
Half my life for basically what I have now, or do nothing and have 80% of what I have. Well,
I
guess
mean,
what
but it's
people,
not like do nothing, right? Having kids is you still have to do things,
well, yes,
right?
yeah, well, yes, but I mean, okay, not having a job or a career, right?
Right, right,
Just
right.
just doing your okay, we can call them your responsibilities and your chores if you are a responsible type. But a lot of those people, they were doing studies how much of that money every month was going towards alcohol and cigarettes. Okay,
Oh,
well, how the increase in alcohol and cigarettes, like they were all calculating that stuff. A lot of that money was going back, but at the same time the government knew that that would happen, and they knew alcohol and cigarettes are taxed more, and it's an
mm,
intricate system. It has its pluses and minuses. It depends on what perspective you're looking at it. You can argue it for both ways, but what have I seen over the years of being part of the system is that a lot of people just don't want to work, right? They don't
mm.
want to. And so because of that, many challenges arose. And then we had this whole issue of like immigrants and migration as to like what we're going to do. Are we going to allow them in? Because there aren't enough people who want to do those like, entry level jobs.
Right.
So it's complicated.
It's definitely an interesting time to be alive, and especially, when we're looking into a potential shift that might free up a lot of our time. So a lot of us could become maybe timionaires if they choose to. But it's not only about not doing things, as you said, right? So, Dominic,
But let me add
yeah,
one thing. I'll add one thing right there because it just
yes,
came to my
please.
mind. It's like this. If you know that the earth is flooding, you want to learn how to swim first. You'll do better off. If we know that we're transitioning into a world that's going to be filled with more free time and less opportunities, you want to learn the tools of the timionaire, because learning the tools of the timionaire is like learning how to swim. You will have it easier. You will survive. You will not drown. Yes, you may still have to swim against the current, but you'll be able to cling onto some rocks and eventually get to shore. So timing it right now came at the ideal time, right? It all fell into place with all these transitions. So what I'm doing is I'm providing people with a way to learn how to use some of the most important tools in life: time, energy, and money.
Love that. That's a great closing. Dominic, I'll put the website in the description below. And if people want to follow you, are you on any social media where they can follow you personally?
Sure. So, because I'm a timionaire, I don't spend a lot of time on social media, and I'm even willing to sacrifice business in order to do that. I only spend time on LinkedIn, so I am on LinkedIn. You can find me there, Dominik Stanecki or Timeionaire. And then I do have a YouTube channel that I'm starting off. I do enjoy making content, and Timeionaire is fantastic for that. So on YouTube, I have started my channel, also Timeionaire. You can find me there.
Awesome. Dominic, thank you so much. Greetings to Poland. Had a lot of fun. And yeah, to everybody else, see you in the next video.
Thank you, Camille.
Thank you. Bye bye. Cool. All right. And we can pause the recording here.
Cool, man.
Yeah, I think that was pretty good, man.
That was. We're definitely, yeah, we're definitely gonna do a round.